Welcome to another installment of Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about anything from movies, movie news, television, video games, you name it, just all sorts of fun stuff like that. We got a ton of actual news stories to actually cover. This was like the biggest news week we've had, I think, since the pandemic started as far as the entertainment world goes. But before we get into everything, don't forget, guys, you can submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's pretty much all I have off the top. So no, let's get started here. Joining me today is none other than Rick Metz himself. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Like I said, we got a ton of stuff to actually talk about. So we're gonna try to jump into this super quick so this doesn't last 5 hours. And then we also got John Knight himself here. How you doing, John?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Especially when we're talking comics and stuff. We gotta have you on here. So let's get into it here. Let's get into it. The first thing, our first topic today, guys, is going to be The Boys. Amazon's The Boys is getting its own spin-off series. I mean, the third season also is already greenlit, so we got that coming. And then now all of a sudden we're going to get a spin-off series that's going to be focusing on. It kind of honestly sounded like Degrassi with superheroes, but obviously they say it's going to maintain the same R-rated kind of, edginess that The Boys itself has. But it's going to be I don't know, like a superhero college, a soup in training type of thing. And like I said, my only hesitation with something like this is the fact that it could end up being something like Degrassi, or like I don't know, like how compelling it will be. It really just depends, in my opinion, on like where they end up going with the show, and then what period this is going to be set in. Because I imagine this will be somewhat of a prequel series.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, have you, Rick? I know you haven't really been keeping up with The Boys, but John, have you been? You've seen a little bit of it, but I know you haven't seen like the most recent episode.
No.
Like, have you been keeping up with it, John?
Oh yeah. I just watched what the new episode dropped yesterday. I watched it yesterday, so yeah.
I think that was probably the best episode of the season so far, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, whichever one I watched last is the best episode. It's that good. I cannot get enough of that show. They do a great job of infusing it with that over the top kind of sarcastic tone and violence and humor and everything, and they don't shy away from it, which I love. I mean, it's definitely not for kids and not for teens, but that's fine. There's a place for it, and I think it's ratings and clearly getting a spin-off show that it has an audience out there.
Well, as far as like original series go on Amazon, it's really the only one that I've even watched. It might just because of my bias towards like superhero stuff, because I know like Man of High Castle is supposed to be like really good.
Sure.
And, then they have some other stuff too. I just can't, off the top of my head, I can't even think of any other Amazon shows. I mean, we got the Lord of the Rings one coming.
They also have that Hannah show, and then they've got the John Krasinski plays it. He plays the
Jack
spy
Ryan.
analyst Jack Ryan show.
I tried to watch that, and I didn't. I just couldn't. I only gave it one shot, and I didn't even get through the first episode. But I think that was more or less just like I didn't have time for it. I feel like watching it because I heard it was pretty good.
Jim Halpert. A spy.
Yeah,
he's a spy. He's a CIA analyst, I believe. It was the first season was good. I mean, I don't know. It didn't blow me away, but it was entertaining. I just think they have a hard time. Their originals don't have the same prestige as like Netflix original shows do. I think people are more willing to try the Netflix shows, but I think Amazon realizes that they're kind of fine. Netflix hasn't done anything I don't think is out there and over the top as The Boys.
No, that's the thing too with Netflix. It's like they knock it out of the park with their original series, and then their Netflix original movies are always garbage. And with Amazon, it's the complete opposite. Like, not that the Amazon series are garbage, but like their notoriety is for their Amazon original movies, because like they have their films that they make and produce, like just that are actually Amazon films. Like, what was it? Wasn't Manchester by the Sea? Wasn't that an Amazon original?
That was.
And then
that was an Amazon movie.
I think Hell or High Water was also an Amazon movie, and then that Kumail and Johnny movie that was based on his life.
Yep.
The Big Sick. That was like
Big Sick. Yeah.
They've like knocked it out of the park with their movies, but their shows like actually do have some. I just think they're a little bit later to the party. They don't have as many shows like as Netflix does. But
Sure.
I don't know. It is kind of a interesting dichotomy where like Netflix and Amazon are probably the two heavy hitters as far as like the streaming services go, because HBO kind of has been its own thing for such a long time. Where like they're like the most common neutral middle ground of they make good movies and TV shows explicitly. And back to the boys thing though. The only thing that made me think Degrassi though was pretty much this line right here. There's like hormonal competitive soups as they put their physical, sexual, and moral boundaries to the test, competing for the best contracts in the best cities. So,
that's interesting.
And they describe it as part college show, part Hunger Games. So I kind of feel like they could go one of two ways with this, and it's make it. I'm sure that they're going to keep it as like, I don't know, R-rated. They kind of like hinted at that already, that it's going to remain very much the boys, but different. I just feel like it could really go one of two. It could be really cheesy and kind of like boring, or it could be like really awesome, depending on how far they're willing to take it. Because I for whatever reason, I'm imagining like, you ever see Neighbors with like Zac Efron and imagine that, like those kind of
Will Ferrell, right?
No, it was Seth Rogen and
Seth Rogen,
and Zac Efron and whatnot. And I'm imagining like the Zac Efron characters, them being the soup guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it's a bunch of crazy, efforts like that, just with superpowers, all like being crazy, trying to get the best like it could be a lot of fun. It could get kind of stale, and it could also get kind of cheesy at times, I feel like, which I don't know, kind of lends itself to the boys in some ways. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's been such a great show. I'm looking forward to really anything. We'll see.
I'm curious who they're going to get to, because as far as I know, The Boys is following loosely the plot of the comics. I mean, it's taken elements from the comics that already existed in. So I'm curious how much the creator of The Boys comic, Garth Ennis, is going to be involved with this, or if this is a wholly Amazon creation and they're kind of doing this off, on their own.
We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know if they even said if the showrunner. I know Eric Kripke is going to be producing it, and Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg and James Weaver again. So I mean, they're all the producers and showrunners of The Boys. So
yeah,
I mean, who knows?
I didn't know Seth Rogen was.
Yeah, him and Evan Goldberg's company is like behind the Boys.
They had done the Preacher series, which was a Garth Ennis series, comic series that they had produced for AMC. I really wish, looking at how good The Boys is and how well they've translated that they would have been able to do the same with Preacher on Amazon or Netflix or one of these streaming channels that would have given them more freedom to adapt it a little more faithfully. They had to make some adjustments and tone down some stuff for the AMC series that it was still a good series. It just didn't quite have the over the top feel of it that The Boys does.
Right, I watched like the first season of that. I think I can't remember how far I got through, and it was fine.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah,
it was okay. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to this. So anything more with The Boys is fine. Like I'm all game for.
I like what I've seen so far. Like I think it's a good show.
It's really good. It's a great show.
It was my favorite new show of last year, and I think it's my favorite show this year. I can't think of a series that I watch or have seen that I've liked more the past 2 years than this show.
No, I totally agree. And I wasn't. The only thing I'm curious of, and I don't want to get like too. Do you know anything about the comics? I don't want to get too anything heavy into spoilers, but.
I know some. I read it. See, it started as a DC comic.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of their mature line when it first came out, but it was too over the top for DC. So after the first 6, I think it was after the first 6, it may have been the first 3 issues, DC said, we're going to go ahead and pass on continuing to publish this. And that's when Garth Ennis took it over to Dynamite and they started publishing it. So, I've read some of it, but I didn't read much past that.
Well, the main thing that I'm curious about what they're gonna do, because they already changed like Stormfront. Stormfront was like a dude in the comics, and they
Yeah.
changed him to be, they gender swapped him. And so I'm presuming, I haven't read all the comics. I just read like kind of after season 1, I was like just curious about a couple characters, so I like kind of skimmed through some stuff. So obviously, I imagine, considering Stormfront was a dude, that the storyline they just introduced with her, like the whole reveal at the end of episode 6. Again, I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything. Assuming all that's new, it'd be weird otherwise if Stormfront was a dude. Not that there's anything wrong with that by any means, but just hard to have children. If,
Yeah.
if you're the same.
Although it's all about genetic modification, so
Maybe
they could
yeah.
just be test
Yeah,
tubing them.
that's also true. But what I'm mainly curious of is Black Noir, because do you know like Black Noir's identity in the comics?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay, well I don't want to spoil anything, but like it seems like they're not going that route, but at the same time, it kind of does, based on the opening like scene I think to the series was him doing that infiltration thing, and then like the dude trying to like blow him up, and then he doesn't die.
Yeah.
And like I don't know. I don't want to get spoil. If you want to spoil, like I don't know if they're gonna go that route, so I'm not gonna say anything. But like who he is supposed to be underneath the mask is like somewhat familiar. So and I don't know if they're gonna go that route with it. But I don't know. I'm just curious if they're gonna do that, because they've kind of like teased that they are, and it's really hard to talk about without spoiling it. So
He's a cool character,
like,
from what I've seen.
he is a cool character, but like he has no lines and like at all.
Sure.
And,
it feels like they're keeping him off the board. They're not going fully into his. It feels like they're saving him for something.
Well, dude, he does some messed up stuff in the comic. Like, if you think the show is like they do some effed up stuff, like,
yeah,
dude, like I'm not even kidding. In this is not really a spoiler because it happened in the comics, but like they have a scene with Black Noir, and like, because they barely really use him at all. But then in like season 1 of like the one in the comic, the first run of the comic line, Black Noir was like literally raping people and like doing some messed up stuff. Like, so if you think the show's messed up, like go check out the comic, and then you can know who Black Noir is underneath the mask and know what I'm kind of getting at to see if they're actually going to do that or not. Because at this point, I could kind of take it or leave it, but it'd be, I don't know, the way things are going, it'd be even kind of more interesting for them to actually follow that line. So like, I don't know, I'm still the most interested in knowing what they're going to do with Black Noir, just based on what I know. You know what I mean? I don't know. But if neither of you know, it's kind of hard for you to speculate. So the question is, for you guys who do know who Black Noir is, quote unquote, supposed to be underneath the mask, what do you think they're going to be doing with Black Noir and any of the other future characters that are going to be popping up in the new spin-off series and everything? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next main topic is going to be bringing us into the world of DC, in particular, the Snyder Cut. Had some kind of unprecedented news that they are actually going to be bringing in the entire original cast minus one to actually do some reshoots, which we were initially, I don't know, told explicitly that they were not going to be doing any more additional footage of any kind for the Snyder Cut. So it's kind of interesting that they've, one, already even like obviously allowed the Snyder Cut to be created in some ways, which is great. But then two, like, I don't know, the rumors initially were like, oh yeah, it's going to be like $30 million to finish it. But then we got word from the former lead of HBO Max saying that he wishes it was only going to cost them $30 million. So they're already spending, I don't know, I estimated probably about 75 million would probably be the closer, more accurate number to actually get everything finished. But that was in a world prior to them actually doing reshoots with the whole cast. So to me, that kind of, I don't know, it kind of implicates that that they're probably spending even more money now. But I don't know, guys. What do you guys think about this? And then two, obviously, we got news that Henry Cavill supposedly is saying he's not going to be a part of this. So
Well,
may or may not.
I think it'll be good because, I mean, if it's that good where they're doing reshoots to where they want to make it as good as possible, they're probably going to make the money back. Like people want to see it.
All right, plenty of people. I definitely.
Yeah, like even I do. I mean, even I do.
Well, I'm just like I said, I'm just kind of more shocked that they're even just doing it in general. Like, if the financial aspect aside, I can't even imagine what they're gonna need anybody for. So it's just like kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like what are they reshooting?
What are these scenes, man? And then
So there's a couple things that I was like, the way my understanding of the way that Justice League was intended prior to all the drama with Zach being let go and Joss being brought in, all that coming out of the production of BVS, my understanding was that Justice League was set up to be a two-parter, Justice League Part 1 and Justice League Part 2, and that Part 1 was basically the film that Zach filmed, that he put to tape, and then Justice League Part 2 was going to be filmed shortly thereafter, and they were going to be released consecutively in back-to-back years. And then you had the reception of BVS, and you had issues with the studio and Zach, and Zach's unfortunate loss, and then Joss being brought in. So everything got kind of thrown into disarray. But if what Zach had filmed originally was supposed to be Part 1 of a two-parter, I'm wondering if these reshoots aren't to close off the story in a more definitive way, rather than leaving the audience with a giant cliffhanger at the end.
well, too, that now that you bring that up, it just kind of had me thinking, because if they're willing to bring in, and maybe they are just doing it for that purpose, just to kind of give it a better, leave it less open ended. You know what I mean? But the fact that they're willing, we'll just say, to spend the money to actually film these additional scenes, I'm wondering if, say this thing actually does like incredibly well, and makes HBO Max a ton of money and all this stuff, and it's like somehow super well received. Because even my thing with this whole thing is that, like you just kind of said, the the critics and the fans for all of Zack Snyder's DC movies before were pretty much split down the middle. It was just,
You loved it or you hated
yeah,
it.
it was the epitome of divisive. So
Mhm.
I highly doubt that just like this, it's not gonna be like when this comes out, everybody's not just gonna all of a sudden love it. Like, it's gonna be the same kind of concept, because if I find it hard to believe that if 50% of people hated Zack Snyder's DC movies, me not being one of them, I liked them. That all of a sudden they're just gonna come on board with this, like, all of a sudden, because I think
If
most of
it's
the
really
people,
good, maybe. I mean,
maybe, but I think it's unlikely. You know what I mean? Do I want it to happen? Sure. But here's my hypothetical. Like, that aside, if it is somehow successful and somehow even more well received than Zack's DC films in the past and Justice League and whatever you want to say,
Justice League.
if the HBO Max miniseries version of this Zack Snyder cut of Justice League is just far more unanimously well received, what do you think the odds are that they actually do Zack's Part 2 for HBO Max?
That'd be cool.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to drop. I mean, it's still a substantial investment, but it's one thing to drop 75 million to complete a vision of a movie that's been mainly produced. It's another to give him what 350 plus million to create a second part.
well,
A
I don't
wholly
know if they
new.
would need that much though, because if they stuck to the series model, they could presumably do essentially what they're doing for this quote unquote. Um, it's like going the Game of Thrones production route, like it's like 20 million an episode. So
Okay.
if they were to do this part two and do another 4-part miniseries, maybe they'd be willing to do it for another 100 million, depending on how successful it is. If they could get it done, because they wouldn't be making it as a big blockbuster like movie per se, but it would still have as good a production value as like Game of Thrones, presumably,
Mhm.
which would be, I mean, that's pretty good. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I could see him doing if if it's successful enough and they're able and Zach's willing and the cast is willing, and if Zach thinks he'd be able to do it for like $100 million, maybe $150 million, Because if it's like super successful, I mean, money talk. So if somehow this comes out and against all bounds of logic, somehow it's more well received than any other DC film made by Zack, because that's the thing. I want it to be, but I don't know, the odds aren't really in that favor. So it's going to be, if 50% of people didn't like anything leading up to it, it's the same flavor. It's going to be the same, type of movie as Zack's other DC movies. It's not like it's going to be some whole new realization of anything. Like most of the movies already shot, so it's not going to be like anything different, so.
Yeah.
But if somehow it is, I could see him maybe wanting to do that, which would be kind of cool.
I think it'd be cool. Yeah.
If they went Game of Thrones route, I mean, look, they've got my money. they've got my views. I mean, no matter what they do, I'll check it out because they got me. I'm a big superhero nerd. But yeah, I'd love to see a DC, a Justice League show. It also is interesting, when you bring up and put in that context, they seem to have lined all their ducks up or gotten their ducks in a row as far as that being an option with bringing Ben Affleck back into the fold. We're going to see him again in the Flashpoint movie. So he's back involved with the family when it looked like he had been when he kind of left WB and left the DC universe.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Aquaman. The Ray Fisher stuff is interesting because here you've got reshoots stating that he's coming back to do reshoots, but then you've got this other side of it where he's like fighting with the production or the movie arm of it. But maybe if they bring him back with HBO, he's more likely to do it because he doesn't have the bad involved. I don't know. There's a whole lot of questions around this whole thing, and unfortunately I don't think we're gonna have any definitive answers until this is released.
It's not surprising to me that Ray Fisher is coming back because he was a fool. Like, he's been on record saying that, like, everything, he's super pro Zack. He is like 100% pro Zack Snyder, and that was one of the things that when he initially started coming out with all these like allegations against, in particular like Joss Whedon and how Justice League and the set and everything, how it was when the reshoot started happening and Joss came on. That's when all the negative stuff happened, but the first things he was saying was that, like, he was mad about, like, Cyborg's betrayal. Like, all his stuff was cut. Him and Zack had this whole, like, rich story thing and everything from the movie and, like, originally shot. And he was like,
he was supposed to be like the cornerstone of the movie, wasn't
he? Yeah. That's what him and Zack set up. And he said, like, it was just completely different once Joss came on. Like, and not just like on screens. He wasn't like just mad about the on screen stuff, but like just the whole dichotomy, everything just like. The way he was able to interact with Zack was a much better way than he was with Joss. But like through that lens, it's like obviously I could totally see him, like, if Zack Snyder needed him to come back, he's probably all for it.
Yeah,
probably going to be there in a heartbeat. The interesting thing is, like, with the Henry Cavill portion of it is, interestingly enough, the news dropped that they were going to be bringing back the whole cast for it like a day after he did this initial interview. So it could have been the kind of thing where, and they even mentioned this in this article, that he wasn't able to say anything yet because it hadn't been officially announced. So that's kind of one thing that they're kind of leaning on, is like maybe that was the case. Like maybe he is planning on going back to do these reshoots at some point in time, but wasn't able to say anything because official news hadn't dropped. But the only other thing that would kind of contradict that is, I guess right now he's in the middle of filming The Witcher season 2. So I guess it would just kind of depend on what they need him to do. At least we know.
Oh God, they're going to have to digitally remove a mustache.
No, I was going to say Geralt does not wear a mustache, so they won't have to worry about it.
Maybe he does in season 2. Oh no, it's mustache gate.
He's got like a beard or something.
Yeah, it might be mustache gate part 2, but we'll see. Geralt is normally a little bit scruffier. That's the only thing. He's a little bit scruffier and a little bit dirtier.
Take like a day or so, though.
Yeah, he could shave, though, and I don't think anybody would care. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't see... I don't see Netflix and them being such D-bags about him shaving his mustache as Paramount was with him. Because, like, my God, dude, he could just put a prosthetic mustache on afterward, and it wouldn't have been.
Insane.
No one would have known. But instead, they're just like, no.
It'd be so much easier just to the movie prosthetic mustaches too. They look perfect.
Yeah, they look 100% believable. Like it's
it would have been easier to do
insanity. Like they were just flopping their thing on the table and saying, giving Warner Brothers the middle finger, and that's literally all that was. Which I don't know. We got some good memes out of it, so I guess it was okay. Because that whole movie is pretty much a meme. So I guess then we got the cool scene with him shaving off the mustache, and like Henry Cavill himself was memeing about it. So I mean, kind of worth it, because after all that, we're actually getting the Snyder cut now. So if anything, we should be thanking Paramount, because without Mustache Gate, I'm telling you, that was probably a huge part of why people wanted to see the damn Snyder cut and not the Justice League movie. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Snyder cut just as much as ever, though. So they're going to bring the whole cast back. That's great. I'll take any more Ben Affleck Batman as I can get.
You and Ben Affleck.
Not to drag this out too.
The best one.
Not to drag this out too much longer than it needs to be, but we also, I don't know if we touched upon it, but the news came down last week that DC Universe, the DC Comics streaming service, is shifting all of its TV shows and movie content to HBO Max, and it's going to go solely as a comic book, a monthly comic book or an annual comic book service. So HBO Max is going all in on DC content, and they're bringing everything into there. So it would make sense, like you've talked about many times. They have kind of a drought of content, of new content, original content. So this would stuff the coffers a little more and get them really going on the DC front.
Yeah, and I'm honestly, we were talking about that. I think I don't know, last week. I think we talked about it off camera. With that, man, like they're not lowering the price at all for the thing, though, right? That's the only thing that has me kind of concerned.
No,
the
only thing they're doing is they're increasing they're shortening the turnaround between when a comic gets released on the stand and when you can read it on the service. And there was something else. They're adding in a lot more comics to the service, because right now it's like this curated collection.
Right.
It doesn't have everything. If they open up the entire archives, maybe it's worth it. I don't know.
Yeah. The content is what matters. I just feel like I guess I should look into like what the price of like other digital comics subscriptions are, because I don't really know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a competitive price for just that anyway, as long as they open up that back catalog and have more offerings. Maybe it's still worth it. I still think they should have just bundled it together with HBO Max. Just like had it as you can still have it separate, but it's like an add-on feature, kind of just like included with HBO Max, just to, I don't know, help it along.
Sure.
But
I think, or I think if they offer it as a $2 or $3 add-on, I think that they could get a lot more business. I'm not planning on continuing my subscription. I own a lot of those comics. I don't have reason to go back and do that. So
no, I totally agree.
I'm sure a lot of people do too, and it doesn't give them much of a reason to subscribe.
Yeah.
So
we'll just have to wait and see. The only thing I'm also curious about too with HBO Max, just their content drawn as it is we haven't got like any word on the Green Lantern series that they're supposedly been in development for, I don't know, years at this point. So I think I read like an article saying somewhere that it was just like a rumor thing. So that's why I'm not really going to cover it. But I don't know. I still like to speculate. But they said it's supposed to be Jon Stewart as GL, who they're planning on leading with for it.
I hope it is.
Yeah, me too. I feel like that's logical in all ways.
Yeah, this isn't an original thought, but Kevin Smith talked about this on his podcast years ago, how and it might have been Mark Bernard and the guy that he does the podcast, so he might have been the one that actually brought this up. But, when they announced that they were doing a Justice League and a Green Lantern movie, they should have done Jon Stewart from the jump, because Jon Stewart was the one that was in the Cartoon Network Justice League cartoon. The one that spun out of the Batman the animated and the Superman animated series. That was Jon Stewart. That's little kids that were teenagers when these movies came out are now young adults. That's who their Green Lantern was, and why you didn't go with an established character that these kids knew is beyond me. So
no,
I
was just watching somebody on a stream who said the exact same thing, that when the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie came out, they were super confused because they watched the Justice League TV show and knew Jon Stewart was
Not
Green
Hal
Lantern,
Jordan.
not Hal Jordan. And like, you'd have to watch it all to even really understand that that's how it was supposed to be, or know the comics and know that Hal Jordan was originally Green Lantern. But that aside, it speaks to your point where like Jon Stewart was already in most people's minds, and like for that age bracket, as the established Green Lantern, just by virtue. And he's honestly, in some ways, kind of better character.
He's a little cooler. He's an ex-military, ex-marine.
Yeah, he's honestly a better.
He works better in if you're doing a space cop, a space army type show. I mean, bring in the guy that's got military background. That makes perfect sense.
I liked the idea that they tossed around of doing it like having both Hal and John and be it like a buddy cop kind of thing, but that have Hal Jordan be like the older guy, like make him be like like he comes in and kind of shows him the ropes, just like Kilowog and everybody showed Hal the ropes back in the day. Like if you think like I don't know, like a Tom Cruise age kind of Hal Jordan, and then like a Michael B. Jordan age kind of Jon Stewart.
Well, and then you get to be Hal Jordan. And then you know who you get to be Hal Jordan. That's
Chris Pine.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what I really wanted to be? I wanted Chris Pine to be Hal Jordan and Idris Elba to be Jon Stewart.
Idris Elba, I was gonna say
that's my literal dream casting for the GLs, man. And then like you could even throw in, get this, old Marky Mark for Guy Gardner.
Oh my God!
He could throw in that Boston accent. Like it'd be pretty perfect.
Boston accent.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, I was thinking Idris Elba myself. I was like, dude, he would be
maybe absolutely perfect.
He's badass,
Jon Stewart.
Yeah,
like 100%. And plus, him and Chris Pine obviously worked together on Star Trek. So be good. Like they already have rapport. It'd be perfect. Plus, they're both fucking just fantastic actors. So I mean, you throw in good actors in anything, you're good to go. So I don't know, but that's pretty much all I got on this stuff. So let's move along. So the question is, guys, what do you think about them actually going in and bringing in all these original cast members of Justice League back, spending all this more monies, more dollar signs on this Snyder cut of Justice League? Whatever you guys think, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic keeps us in the world of DC, but over to James Gunn's Suicide Squad, the unreleased Suicide Squad, which after that panel at DC Fandom, I was already excited for it. I mean, let's be honest, because it was James Gunn and everything. But after seeing the behind-the-scenes footage, a little sizzle reel and everything, it looked great. And then we had, what's his name? Joel Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman came out and like just the other day said it's like going to be very hard R. The movie that they made was 100% going to be rated R. So that has me excited because I feel like James Gunn's sensibilities for just his humor and everything. Like if you remember the movie Super with our boy Rainn Wilson, Dwight Schrute, for you Office fans out there, I'm hoping it's like that, but on steroids. Because James Gunn even said at that very same panel, this was like the biggest movie he's ever made. So I'm imagining like The Boys with DC characters essentially. But this story in particular is that John Cena's Peacemaker character is getting his own series on HBO Max. So this news dropped the other day, and like I said, I'm pretty excited for this. He just mentioned he literally goes on to say like James Gunn, just because during the pandemic and work from home, he just decided to write a series for him. So he just didn't have time. He was in between projects, didn't have anything to do.
Like, I'll write a nice series.
I'm just going to write a series for Peacemaker. So he did that. So I'm looking forward to this because one, obviously the James Gunn portion of it, but two, John Cena in the right role, man, he's awesome.
Oh yeah,
he's hilarious. Like his role in what was that movie with Tina Fey and what was it called? Sisters, I think. I remember he plays like a drug dealer. Though.
Yeah, no.
Some bodybuilder drug dealer dude. And like, just Google the scene with him
It's
in it.
so funny.
It's the funniest like thing.
His comedic timing is like perfect.
Yeah, it's so good. Like that's one thing that and I don't know if like that was obviously pre-James Gunn, because what has me excited for this is the fact that like James Gunn was able to take someone like Dave Bautista, who is kind of in the same boat as John Cena, where they're not the greatest, actors or
They're not
thespians out
known
there.
for that.
Yeah, they're not these big time drama dudes. They're not amazing actors. But like with Dave Bautista and James Gunn, he was able to really focus on what Dave was good at. You know what I mean? They made the character of Drax. I don't know, he kind of like steals Guardians of the Galaxy in multiple scenes a lot of the time. So especially even in stuff, this wasn't really well, actually, no. I think they did say that James Gunn actually assisted with the writing on this part. But in Infinity War, when Thor lands on the ship and he's like, Drax's whole like spiel about him being an angel and everything is just like that's like the best one of the best parts about that scene until Thor wakes up. You know what I mean? It's just like what they're talking about. So my hope is that Peacemaker ends up being like just as good as Drax, if not better, though, because he's kind of like murderous. Like, because his whole thing is like peace, like comes at like any cost. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter like who gets in the way. Like
kind of an oxymoron, really.
Yeah, like yeah. But like I don't know.
I'll kill who I have to make peace.
Right? No, that's what I don't know. It just has me. I feel like that character could literally he'd be one of the boys. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and I think he would fit in that show like perfectly with like Butcher in them. Just be like, he puts on a suit so he can go fight the Soups. Like I know he's not going to be in The Boys by any means, but like I'm hoping it's that kind of show where like it's just bonkers and off the wall, and like John Cena has some like funny stuff to say. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What do you guys think about this news?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I like John Cena. I think he's funny. And from that sizzle reel that we saw for Suicide Squad, like he looks like his character is going to be pretty good. So
I think I said before too, like when that came out, we were talking about on the show. I think we kind of thought we discussed who was going to die, right?
Yeah,
because that's like presumably everybody will die, right? And I think he was one that I said probably is not going to die.
Yeah,
I think he was for sure be carrying on in some way, just because I think I even brought up just how funny he can be, and I just don't see him. I don't see them killing him off just because. Why would you? Like, because if that character was written right with him in the role, like it could be like comedy gold.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't know. I'm glad to see that. I guess they thought the same way, and he must have done a really good job in the movie, and probably steals the show in a lot of ways. For James Gunn to be sitting down, pretty much just bored and trying to kill time, and decides of all the characters he could write a show about, he picks Peacemaker to do it. So that has me pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it. I think he's an interesting character. I was going to say, well, I guess this confirms that he won't die in the Suicide Squad.
Exactly.
I mean, it could be that this is a prequel to how he got involved.
It's true.
How he got involved with the squad. It could be the bridge to the Suicide Squad 2 if it does well and they announce another one. Maybe Gunn sets up stuff in the show that pays off in the next one if they do it. So yeah, again, I'm all in. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it could very well be a prequel, which could be actually pretty interesting. Just like to see how he got to land, how he got wound up in the squad. They could do a whole backstory and just like it could be a cool little prequel leading right into it. So you could always have that kind of flavor. I don't know. I kind of hope it doesn't, because if he does steal the show and is good enough to get his own show, prequel or otherwise, I'd like to see more at that point. Like, I know I haven't seen it yet. It might suck and I might hate it. I just doubt it. I don't. If it's not good, why would they go out of their way to give him his own series before we even see the movie? So like the people who have seen his performance and seen the movie and everything, I'm just gonna take it that it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Why else would they make it? So
True.
I'm looking forward to it. question is, guys, what do you think? Are you guys excited that Peacemaker here is getting his own show? Do you think that kind of the same thing that we're thinking, that if done properly, this could be pretty much just comedy gold? It could just print money in a lot of ways if done right, which I think James Gunn can bring the right sensibilities to this, obviously. So whatever it is, guys, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next couple of topics here, we're gonna hit these pretty much all at once, because there's like 6 different MCU stories to some capacity. Some things getting delayed, something is getting announced, some things going back into production. You name it, there's literally like 5 or 6 different MCU stories. MCU's popping off this week. So we're gonna get into this first with the most recent news to drop was that a Samuel L. Jackson led Nick Fury series is in development for Disney Plus.
A Nick Fury series.
And yeah, say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, right.
And we were talking a little bit about this when the news dropped. I think at first I was like, what would they even really do with this? Like, just given where the timeline is, because I guess they could go any route with this. I haven't read this full article yet, mind you, either, so it might say something. Actually, it says the exact plot details of the show are being kept under wraps. So your guess is as good as mine. But considering what they're doing with like Loki, for instance, and then with the Black Widow movie being a prequel, Loki being this kind of like altered timeline thing as it is, because that's kind of where Loki stands at this point. It's kind of up in the air what they could do with it. They could do like a prequel thing. I don't think they would go a prequel route. And as I was thinking about it more, I thought it'd be much more interesting if they did pretty much a backdoor, like use this to make it a backdoor sword series. Like, you know what I mean? Because what Nick Fury is doing right now is the sword stuff, essentially, with the Skrull. So I felt like that if I had to guess, that'd be where I think this is going. What do you guys?
My guess would be just as good as yours, I guess.
Your guess?
Yeah.
I mean, they could do anything with it. I just don't think they would do a prequel for it. I don't think it would make any sense. Like, what kind of story are you going to tell?
Yeah.
The Black Widow prequel makes sense because it's uncovering more about her past and like kind of the stuff we got teased with in Ultron. Because again, like we even said like last week, like this was the Black Widow movie should have came out 10 years ago. So if they would have made it when they should have made it, quote unquote, it wouldn't be a prequel. It would just be one of the movies that happened. So I don't know. Like, John, what do you think they're going to go with this?
Yeah, I have no idea. The last time we saw Nick Fury was in that tease at the end of Spider-Man: Far From Home, where he's on the Skrull spaceship, kind of directing stuff. So Sword makes perfect sense for picking that up. Which I'd be interested to see. I'm curious if they use this to launch into future Marvel movies, if this is sort of a self-contained thing. I don't think it will be a prequel, and the only reason I don't think it will be a prequel is we got a pseudo Nick Fury prequel with Captain Marvel. We got to see Nick Fury as a younger agent, and plus you have all the, depending on how far back with a prequel you go, you have all the de-aging CGI you need to do on Sam Jackson. So I just don't think they'll go that route. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think they'll go that route. I think they'll try and fit it in continuity somewhere, which I would watch a new Marvel movie every week. So getting these new shows is the next best thing as far as I'm concerned. Like, keep them coming. If you, especially, I mean, come on, Sam Jackson. If you can give me Sam Jackson on a weekly basis, yeah, go ahead. I'll do it. I mean, it doesn't even need to be Marvel.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. Like I just there's a lot they could do. I feel like there's very little you can do as any sort of prequel thing. I don't really care for prequels as it is for the most part. They're kind of, I've never liked the idea of like I know where it's all gonna go. That's like my biggest gripe that I always talk to Rick about with Star Wars is they keep making the same. They just want to keep going back, and it's boring.
Yeah,
like
make something new.
Yeah, just do something new. Like, and it's like there are exceptions. It's not like it's not always the case. Like I'm excited for the Lord of the Rings series from Amazon. That's technically speaking a prequel, but it's not like it is, but it ain't. It is, but it ain't.
Yeah.
Like So yeah, I'm looking forward to this too. I think the going the sword route would be my best guess, and I think that would that gives them it opens up a lot more doors, and like I don't know, man, they could always do like some Super Scroll stuff. They could be handling that. You never know. Like now that they own Fox, because that was one thing that was tied up with Fox because of the Fantastic Four. They could do that because Super Scroll was like one of those characters who do they really warrant their own movie? I don't know. Like as like the big bad, I don't know. Maybe it'd be. I guess would be kind of interesting to do that as opposed to if they do introduce Fantastic Four. I guess when they introduce Fantastic Four, maybe use Super Scroll instead of the fourth Doctor Doom or whatever, the fourth try at Doctor Doom. You know, maybe save Doctor Doom for something else and do something like that. I don't know, but it could also be someone who's very familiar because our connection to the Skrulls are pretty much through Nick Fury at this point. So continuing that arc and maybe doing something with that seems to make the most sense to me. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Whatever you guys think they're going to do with that, let us know down in the comment section below. But the next story we have with the MCU stuff is the WandaVision trailer. The new WandaVision trailer dropped, and it was really good. Definitely got me more excited for the show than I was. Not that I wasn't excited for the show before, but we just hadn't really seen anything from it. This is a perfect example of why they don't always make a comic accurate costumes, by the way. Like this and Wanda has her OG costume at one point, and neither of them work very well on screen. So when all you guys are out there complaining, like, oh, they didn't look like that in the comics. Well, this is what you would get. All right. You want comic accurate. There you go.
Yeah.
It's there. You got it. So you can be thankful for that. Is it cheaply made? Sure. But obviously that's for the point. But yeah, I thought it really gave me, I think I mentioned this to you off camera, this gave me some Truman Show vibes, man.
It really did.
That's what I thought of. And I love Truman Show, so I'm even more on board with it once we saw the trailer. So what did you guys think about it?
I thought it was great. I mean, it looks good.
I'm interested in what they're gonna do with I don't know, just what they're gonna do altogether. Because I think John, you and I were talking about this before. Like, there's a lot of different things they could do with this. Like, what if she's kind of lost her shit and like the Avengers have put her off grid in like a very Truman Show-esque bubble just to keep her contained, so she doesn't do some House of M stuff. You know, like if they, maybe they're keeping her in some containment facility so she's not altering reality on a global scale, and it's only, maybe it's just being contained in this little bubble. They could go something like that, which would be kind of interesting. Because that's the only thing, as far as like comic ties, that's kind of the vibe that this gives off is very House of Emmy. So
there was a comic series called, may have just been called Just Vision, that came out 2 years ago, I believe. Maybe it's probably going back further than that. Anyway, it's been out for a few years now. It was written by Tom King, who's gone on to do the main Batman series, and he's doing the new Batman Catwoman book that's coming out this fall or this winter from DC. Anyway, he that series that he did was really well. It was critically acclaimed, got a lot of attention from the critics. It may have even won an Eisner. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, it was a trippy comic too. So I wonder how many elements they're going to pull from that comic to bring in here. It was basically Vision tries to have a normal life, a normal robot life, and he's got a robot family with robot kids and all the stuff that they get into. So I'm curious how much of that they try and fold into this, because this has that old, especially from some of the black and white shots, the kind of 50s sitcom family feel. And but then it's also, you get like there's a question from one of the people in the show to Vision at one point, like, how are you doing this because you're dead or something? And Vision looks shocked. So there's something really weird and trippy going on. I think all your suggestions about Wanda maybe warping reality, maybe being set off to the side somewhere by the Avengers, maybe this is just her head. Maybe this is her playing through her grief. I don't know.
Yeah, because they could do that too. That's what a lot of people initially thought. I'm just thinking maybe they're taking it a step further. because like, yeah, the whole head thing, if it's all in your head, that's just as big of a like kind of a boring cop out. You know, when like it's like when you wake up, you watch a whole movie and in the end it was a dream.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know how like annoying that is for the viewer. You know, like it's kind of annoying. Sometimes it can be done well, like, but I don't know.
What if it is the main crux of it is taking place in your head, but because it's taking place in your head, it's affecting the outside reality, and so maybe there's stuff going on the outside that's they're trying to clean up whatever's going on with her. I think I find it wholly surprising, interesting, and intriguing that this is the show that's going to launch the MCU on Disney Plus. Like I would have thought that Captain or the Falcon and Winter Soldier would have been the first show to make it, just because
it was supposed to be.
To me, tonally, that feels like it's more MCU. This is it's MCU characters, but it feels tonally quite different. But maybe it's maybe it's just I don't know, maybe it is intentionally that. Maybe they don't want people to just, get used to expecting the same old thing and they're trying to branch out. But so one of the things, and you both can tell me if you remember seeing it, there is a shot in there of Vision kind of hovering above a city or flying up above a city at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Did either one of you notice, did he have an Infinity Stone in his head?
Yeah, he has the stone and everything.
Does he?
Yeah, because he even when that scene you were talking about before, when I forget the actress's name, but she's sitting in the car just like kind of dazed, like then he goes up and uses the Mind Stone's power, like he puts his finger to her head and like little yellow energy shoots out of his finger. And then she comes to, and then she asks if she's dead, and he says, "Why would you think that?" And then that's what she says, "Because you are."
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh,
I only watched. I think I watched the trailer twice, but then I was so wrapped up in just the tone of it that I didn't pay attention to little specifics like that.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I noticed. He had the stone, and he had the little energy coming out of his finger. His powers come from the stone, so like he can't use the little energy thing without the stone. So that's why like it obviously all has to be made up to some degree and not real. But to what capacity, who knows? Like it's because the only other theory I really had with it was that Shuri, like Black Panther's sister, was able to, who has been confirmed to be the smartest person in the MCU, smarter than Tony Stark. She is literally the most, on an IQ level, the smartest person in the MCU. And so my guess is maybe since she was trying to remove the stone from his head before Thanos ripped it out of his head, that maybe she was able to rebuild Vision without the stone, but maybe it's not like fully working. Maybe he's not all there.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's just his personality's gone. Maybe who knows?
That can make sense.
Yeah, and then Wanda is either manipulating him to try to like make him be normal. So like what you're seeing is kind of a mixture of both her warping reality, but it's also in Vision's mind because she's kind of manipulating it, but maybe her doing that too is also warping reality. Because the only thing we really know about this show is that it's supposed to lead into the Doctor Strange sequel, Multiverse of Madness, where Wanda is going to also be a character, like a pretty much a co-lead to some degree. So if they're trying to like kind of piggyback it in some way, I mean, Multiverse of Madness, and then like I said, like House of M stuff, where she literally rewrites reality. I mean, she has the ability, quote unquote, to do that in the comics. Who knows about it in the MCU? But they're kind of teasing that in this to some capacity. So I don't know. That's the only reason I could really think that they're kind of like keeping her away, because maybe she is like, through her grief or through her trying to, warp Vision's reality, maybe like that's affecting the real reality.
Forgotten that this was that she was supposed to show up in that Doctor Strange movie. And if this is the bridge to that movie, then maybe this is her. Maybe she's discovered a way to jump through the multiverse, and maybe she is exploring other versions of her and Vision.
Well, that's what I'm kind of thinking, but she's not so much jumping through, but she's literally like creating them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because like she can do that. Like she has the ability to like do that kind of stuff in some ways. Like it's not like she could just snap her finger and like I don't know. They actually there's literally a scene where I think she even snaps her finger and like the furniture changes. So like she is literally changing things like right in front of her. But that's what we don't know is like is that just her projecting that in Vision's mind because we know she can project realities in people's mind and from Age of Ultron, giving Tony the vision and everything, and they're like tripping everybody out. So like, oh, they could literally go so many different ways, and Wanda is like such an OP character in the comics. Like if they want to dive far more into that, and even in the movies, they've really just used her powers for more like telekinesis kind of things. So they haven't actually done the reality bending kind of things that she can do. So, but it looks like this is kind of touching on that. But to what extent, who knows? We'll just have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm far more excited for it now than I was before. Well, yeah, to your point too. Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first show on Disney Plus. They just still they hadn't finished filming it, so it had to get pushed back. And they were trying to get it. They were going to go back, I think, in July to try to get it done. I think it was supposed to come out in like July, or shortly after that. But it's supposed to already be out by now. Like I'm fairly certain the initial release date for Falcon and Winter Soldier has already passed and had to get pushed back because they still had some couple days of filming to do. And they never got a chance to do it. So, and they still haven't been able to go back and do it. So, which kind of leads us into one of our other stories because it did get pushed back. So first, before we get into it, what did you guys think of the WandaVision trailer? Whatever. If you're thinking, is this Wanda creating a whole new reality, or is this her trying to like bring Vision back? Because maybe Shuri was able to bring him back in some ways, but he's not all there. So she's just doing WandaVision in his mind, or is she actually manipulating reality and whatever it is? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, so our next main topic here today, guys, is going to still be the MCU, but it's actually going to be back to some good news because we've had some delay news with Falcon and Winter Soldier and everything, and we had some good news back with the WandaVision stuff. So now we're going to jump over to some more good news to where the Loki TV series is now back into production. So very little is really known about the show. We've only had one glimpse, one tease of the show really back in, I think it was February, right? I think you just mentioned it was in February. So that was, I think it was during the Super Bowl. I think it was a Super Bowl teaser spot, and that's all we really saw. And it didn't really give anything away other than the uniform he was wearing had the TVA stuff on it. So, which I'm not too familiar with in the comics. I read through this article here and everything because that's essentially once it kind of came out, once the super sleuths who could, know all these deep cuts right off the bat and actually pull this out and make nice little articles like this, you get to learn a little bit about it. So the TVA are essentially like time cops. So dealing with the fact that the Loki we're dealing with is now pretty much a Loki out of time with, because it's like our Loki that we're familiar with is officially dead. That was confirmed by the Russo brothers that Loki did die. So this Loki that we're actually following in the show is supposed to be the Loki that escapes during the time heist in Endgame with the Tesseract and just poofs away. That's who we're following. So it's essentially a Loki that was plucked right from Avengers 1 who has not experienced any of the character development since then. So a much more mischievous Loki. So that's a kind of I don't know, it's intriguing because there's a lot they could do with that. And then with the time variance, authority people or whatever, I don't know what kind of role they're going to play. I imagine they'd probably just be like some time cop stuff, like, oh, you're doing some bad stuff, or maybe they're going to send him out to like fix things too, since he's broken so many things. Like, I don't know. Because I imagine based on the synopsis of the show that we have, they mentioned that it is, quote, Loki's going to be popping in throughout human history as an unlikely influencer on historical events. So
interesting.
That, like, presumably speaking, he does that and then gets caught by the time variance authority, right? Because I don't think he'd be going around doing that for the time variance authority. I feel like it would make more sense that he goes around, causes mischief as he does, in the timeline, and then that's when he gets plucked away. So that really just leaves the question, like, what's he going to be doing with the time cops here? And will Jean-Claude Van Damme make an appearance? That's really the question.
You can only hope.
Dude, if they brought him in to do a cameo, that would be the best thing ever. Like,
that would be pretty good.
Or if they just had, like, they could even do it to where when Loki is like popping in and out of different timelines, just have one be like the time cop scene when dude, like Jean-Claude ports in front of the truck, and then he's like running from the truck, and then he has to jump under the truck, and then just have Loki just pop in there real quick, and then just like pop out. It's like wrong timeline, then boom.
Yeah, just like oops.
Like, dude, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies were so good.
I know you're joking, but now I want to go hit up IMDb and see who owns the rights to Time Cop and whether or not this be correct.
No, it'd be great. But what are you guys thinking about Loki getting back production? You excited to see this?
Yeah, I think it'll be great. I love Loki.
I mean, he's like one of the best MCU characters.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, good enough to where he not only showed up, because we talked about this, John and I, when we were doing our MCU ranking stuff. Like, Tom Hiddleston's Loki had enough charisma and everything for them to use him in Thor as the main baddie and give him, like, arguably just as much screen time and character development as Thor got, if not more, in some ways. But then he comes back and has even more development and growth and is a main character in Thor 2. And in, like, the main villain in the Avengers, like, pops up he's been used more than almost any other character.
He really has.
Like, I really think he might actually have, I'd have to look this up. I'm not 100%. But he might have, like, if not the most, like, tied with the most Avengers appearances at this point. Like, just MCU movie. Like, because he's been in, like, every Thor movie. He wasn't in Age of Ultron, right? Or was he in Age of Ultron? That might be the only one he wasn't in. I can't remember.
I don't think he was.
But
I think he was on board at that point.
Yeah. But either way, he's been in almost damn near like almost every Thor movie and then almost every Avengers movie. Like he's been a main character in all of them too. I mean, like, and that's just props to Tom Hiddleston because he plays the character so well. So like, and everybody was really bummed that he died, obviously, and but it needed to happen. I feel like they in some ways did kind of drag it on, and if they wanted to push Thor and like give him some actual more character development, which is kind of a shame because it seems like the only character development they're wanting to give Thor is just him losing people. Like right. Everybody just dies around him, and he has to just kind of just move on. You think he'd have something good happen, like probably will in Love and Thunder because Jane's going to come back. So I mean, we'll get to see that. So who knows? But John, what are you thinking about the Loki series coming back to production? What do you think is going to go on with this time variant authority stuff? Because then the other thing that this article goes on to say, which I don't know if this is 100% true, but it says it could have implications on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we know has been said for WandaVision. But this is the only time I've read anything actually saying that Loki would have implications. But I guess based on the time travel stuff, maybe it could. Who knows?
Yeah, it sounds like I mean, you start talking about time travel and you have to jump back to our conversation from our previous I think it was our previous episode where we talked about the news about Kang being brought into the MCU. And so then you have to wonder if Loki's shenanigans draw the attention of Kang, if it was the in-game shenanigans they pulled with going and grabbing the stones, if something went wrong with returning the stones. There's so many questions that come out of that revelation that they're bringing a time traveling villain into the MCU. So you start lining up where the origins of that could come from, and maybe we see Kang in the background of a Loki episode somewhere. Maybe they introduce Kang's pre-villain character. Yep.
What if you know how Marvel doesn't fully straight up adapt everything? It's not 1-to-1 from the comics and everything. What if they make Kang the leader of the TVA, and then he defects? Maybe he's actually inspired by Loki changing things, and instead of being the time cop, he wants to go and do what Loki does. You know, maybe
Yeah.
he takes the Tesseract from it, and then
Mhm.
maybe that's how that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we could see the introduction of that character. While they say that he's going to be showing up in Ant-Man and the Wasp, maybe he has a small role to play in this series if this actually hits before. I don't know what the timeline is when those are coming out, but I just, like you said, Doctor Strange in the multiverse. It would be odd to me to see 2/3 of the Disney shows be tied so heavily into that one MCU movie.
Yeah.
I would think they would try and diversify a little bit. And I'm not even sure that I believe that they are going to be, that these are just going to be stepping stones to the MCU movies. I think they want these things to exist on their own. And while they tie in, maybe they just tie in less directly than maybe we're being led to believe. I don't know.
All right. I mean, yeah, a lot of this was have to wait and see, but I totally agree. Like, I don't think they need 3 different things tying into one movie. Like, even though Loki and Doctor Strange have some sort of history, and I guess you could like say that the time traveling and everything could affect. I mean, I guess it would affect the multiverse in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I feel like there's more they could do with, especially since we've been confirmed that Wanda is going to actually be appearing in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. I don't know. I feel like trying to balance with not that Marvel couldn't do it, I guess, because they do like connect all their stuff together. But I feel like trying to balance 3 different things all connecting to one movie is just kind of unnecessary. Let alone, I don't know, definitely not needed.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I'm glad. Though I will say this, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but I will say this: I'm glad to have Tom Hiddleston back as Loki because obviously
100%.
the character is just great. But it's also, I kind of have to say, I'm also glad that while the character development felt real and it was earned and it was great and it was very nice to see over the course of those movies, Loki as the god of mischief, I think is the ultimate version of the character, and I think he's the most fun when he's doing that. So I'm glad that we're getting that version.
Yeah, that's a good point because if anything, that was one thing that I always kind of complained about in the back of my mind was that they never really saw him do any mischievous stuff really, because everything he kind of did was like, I mean, Avengers, like that was what Thanos kind of willed him to do. Like that wasn't really like Loki doing it. He was pretty much ordered by Thanos because he was, you know, for the most part being used by Thanos, but at the same time, it wasn't really like him doing it. And then with the only mischievous stuff he really did was in Thor 1. And then he kind of was more just like deceitful in Thor 2, but that's when he started to like come around and be like more of a good guy kind of thing. So
it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how they balance him as the protagonist of this show with him, the more evil version of him that he's pulled from and kind of being in the show. I mean, are you going to be rooting for him to succeed in these instances where he goes and messes with history, or are you going to be more like, oh man, look, he's really caused a headache here. Who's going to fix this or whatever? So
right, that's where like I think that's. Which kind of sounds kind of paint by numbers, but I think what's inevitably would happen was that he's going to go cause all this chaos, and the TVA is going to like catch him and make him fix it, and then chaos ensues because he affected the timeline. Then when he goes back to try to fix the timeline, who knows what happens there, and that's where all the conflict like occurs. Was kind of like what we didn't get to see with Cap returning the Infinity Stone, right? Like that kind of that's where I imagine it would go, which. Could be interesting, could be kind of, I don't know, in the end, kind of boring because it's kind of a paint by numbers story, but that's just like where I'm thinking off the top of my head. I'm not a writer, so thankfully, you guys are welcome. I'm not a writer. So, but anyways, guys, question is, what do you think? Are you guys excited that the Loki show is coming back into production? Because I know I am, like I said, especially like I said before with the Disney Plus stuff, they need some content. So, I mean, if for anything else, just get Disney Plus some new content to put out there. But obviously, Tom Hiddleston being back in Loki, as Loki, we all unanimously agree he's just like Winter Soldier, one of the best characters in the MCU. So it's never a problem to see more Loki, you know? But whatever you guys think, you let us know down in the comment section below. All right, so like I said, our next topic is going to be about the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Got delayed again. So it's actually getting pushed back until 2021, which we were just saying it was supposed to be the first, dabble or first taste of the MCU on Disney Plus, which Disney Plus really dropped the ball when they came out too. I just got to rant on this for a minute because this thing came out, okay? Like I got Disney Plus, I got it for free, thankfully, through Verizon, right? So I haven't had to pay for it. But it comes out, everybody got it for The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they had nothing. Nothing new has come out since. Like, and the things that they've put out don't count. Like, they have these little one-off shows like the Jeff Goldblum show, like, which is fine, like, goes around and does stuff, whatever. Then they have like Shop Class with Justin Long, like very low budget shows that are just like pretty much like documentary style shows. They're just like, they're not really shows. Like, well, there's no incentive for it. Disney Plus needed to have they needed to have Mandalorian, and then literally like a week or a month later, drop Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's what should have happened. Give people because when the Mandalorian came out, since they did it week to week and were smart about it, for literally 2 months, that's all anybody was talking about.
Yeah,
everyone was talking Mandalorian. Everybody, but then so the hype built up for it, so people kept people who didn't have Disney Plus went out and got Disney Plus so they could watch Mandalorian. But then, once The Mandalorian was over, I'm still waiting. I don't have any content on Disney Plus. That's not, sorry, but that's not dog shit. Like, the only things they've put on there that's been new has been Artemis Fowl and Mulan, which you have to pay $30 for. Which,
yeah, with a membership already.
Yeah, which isn't not really that good of a movie. Then, like, it's just, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing? And I know they kind of ran into some issues with this, and it should have been out by now. But even so, Mandalorian ended didn't it end like last October or something? Like, it's been like a year since that show came out, right? Because did Disney Plus?
I think it was November last year.
Yeah. So it's been almost a year since the first season of Mandalorian, anyway. So the fact that they didn't have just anything to just kind of follow it up, it kind of blows my mind. Like, there hasn't been anything on there. Like, yeah, they got the whole library and all that stuff, but that's not the point of like having a streaming service. Like, the catalog is not really enough for a lot of people.
They did. I mean, not that this scratches that genre itch, but they did drop Hamilton this summer. They moved that up from a theatrical release to a direct to streaming service, and they also moved. I mean, Hamilton wasn't supposed to drop in theaters until 2021, and they moved that up over a year and brought it straight to the streaming service. So that was a big get for them as far as an original item that came to their service. But I agree.
I will give them that.
There has been a drought of original content coming to the service.
I'm with you. Sorry, I have to do something off camera real quick. Turn my AC down real quick. But no, I'm with you. Hamilton was their only big get. And I still haven't watched it. I wanted to watch it. Like, I'm not a big song and dance musical man. I don't. No, I'm really not. There's not one single musical I actually like. I find that.
What about all those times you break in the song and dance on the show here?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Go back and watch all those videos. No, and I'll tell you what, that's the reason I don't like them, though, because it doesn't make any sense to me in my mind. Like, people are like, you're having like, there was always my least favorite part about all the original Disney classics, like the animated ones even. Numbers. Yeah, because you're sitting here watching like a movie and you're into the movie, then all of a sudden people start singing.
That's not natural. Like, nobody just breaks into song.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. Like, no offense. Like, I know the movies are good and some of the songs are even good.
They're catchy.
But yeah, it's just like I love A Whole New World from Aladdin.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, these are all great songs. But Lion King is probably the only one that I felt like never had too many songs in it. Same with Mulan. It didn't really have a lot. Like, they kind of worked fine. But like a lot of these other ones, man, like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Beauty and the Beast, it's just
constant. It just doesn't make any. And then half the time, it's like during mid conversation, everyone's in the big dance number and song. It's like, why are these people doing this?
Perfectly choreographed.
Yeah, it's like how do they have all this like stage and ready? And it works kind of better in the animated stuff, but in like live action is when like it just completely takes me out of the movie because it doesn't make any sense at all.
It
For
really
them,
doesn't.
like they're just having a conversation and then like someone gets up from the table and starts singing, and then like all of a sudden the people in the shop or the restaurant or whatever start singing and dancing with them. It's like, how did they plan this? Like, what? How do they have
It's
all
like a
this?
flash mob sort of thing.
Yeah,
like.
it's
Sure.
it's stupid. Like, I'm sorry.
I think
stupid.
the traditional movie musical, and I think what you're saying is exactly why you don't see so many musicals nowadays, because a lot of people have a hard time making that leap from I'm watching a normal drama whatever show and then all of a sudden there's a musical number thrown in.
I don't
To be
mind,
fair,
I don't mind
Hamilton
musical numbers and
is
stuff though.
a
Exactly.
musical
That's
through
fine.
and through.
That's fine. Like it's just like things like La La Land and stuff. You know, like
Yeah.
these things that are dramatic pieces with musical numbers in them. I don't feel like they actually work well together, which
Thank
is
God.
honestly why they like the genre has kind of died.
Thank God
Yeah.
they never did that with like the MCU, like Avengers, like make it like.
Well, I mean, they could easily probably do something like that in WandaVision, and it might make
Yeah.
sense.
They're doing that with the show next year. Lucifer.
What?
Lucifer is going to have a musical episode. I'm switching companies here. I'm going
Great
over
show.
to DC.
It's a
But
great show.
yeah, it's such a good show. But when you guys started talking about that, it reminded me when all around the DC fandom stuff, they were talking about how Lucifer is going to have a musical episode next year.
They did. Do you know if they're having another one, or did you watch all the latest season? Because there was
I have
an episode.
Oh, was it the one this past? Okay, maybe
It might be that one because there was like a whole episode where, like the Maze character, it wasn't like the Maze actress. I don't want to spoil anything, but she is like singing, and then Lucifer's also singing. It wasn't really a full-on musical. It was set up to be that way.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. I know this is completely off topic. Let's do Winter Soldier, but the musical thing, if it's set up to like be a musical, it's fine. Like Hamilton is like a musical play. It's fine. That works for me. Like The Greatest Showman, that's like set up to be that kind of thing. It's just when like Beauty and the Beast or like Aladdin, it's like this normal ass movie, but then all of a sudden, oh, now we're doing a dance number. That's annoying. It's
Yeah.
like it's no different than you're watching a live action movie, and then all of a sudden it cuts to animated out of nowhere. Some movies are supposed to do that, like Mary Poppins or something. It's fine. But if you're just watching Infinity War and then all of a sudden everyone starts breaking out into song or it turns to a cartoon or something, like it doesn't work, man. Like it kind of ruins things for me. But I'm back to the main topic here. Back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, because this is I was really bummed when this one got pushed back and we don't have it yet, because Winter Soldier is like one of my favorite MCU characters. And we both, when we did the MCU rankings, we both put this movie, spoiler alert for that video. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. We ranked all 23 of the MCU movies. It took like 2.5 hours to do it. But we ranked and reviewed them all. And both of us unanimously put Captain America the Winter Soldier as our number one MCU movie. So Winter Soldier is obviously one of the reasons, in my opinion, that movie works so well. Because Sebastian Stan I don't know, I just love his portrayal as Winter Soldier. I think it's great. So like, I was really excited, and I like the dichotomy between him and Sam Falcon. I think they have a really good relationship. So I'm just like, I want to see more of that. So like, I was just super excited they were actually going to do that, because I was actually worried with how Endgame ended, like with Cap being gone. Spoilers again. If Sam and Bucky were just pretty much going to go away too. Because like, what are you going to do with him now that Cap's gone? You know,
well, like, Cap hands the shield to Falcon. That movie left you, as much as it wrapped up everything, it also left you with plenty of questions about where the characters that are left going to go. And it looked like going to be our first chance to actually get some answers. And I think, we're going to get to it later, but this is the first year in a good 5 or 6 that we don't have an MCU movie, and people are starved. I'm starved for MCU content.
It's true. Which that though speaks to your point about what you were saying before with like Winter Soldier or Falcon and Winter Soldier, like just making more logical sense to be the first kind of intro into Disney Plus and everything. Because not only does just kind of have that more MCU vibe, but it quite literally was picking up after Endgame. So it actually, the story wise, would have flowed a lot better. And we don't necessarily know how WandaVision, where it's going to pick up. Because I mean, the way it's kind of being displayed, it could almost be a complete standalone thing and not really answer anything about MCU timeline stuff. Not that everything in the MCU has to answer anything, but I mean, the end of Endgame, like you said, just kind of sets up a lot of questions, as well as, like you said, it wrapped everything up in some ways, but there was still a lot of open-ended things. And I don't know, Falcon and Winter Soldier was going to be something that I don't know, would have bridged that gap a little more, because it was supposed to come out in August.
So
We would
Rick,
have already seen it.
Rick, do you subscribe to Disney Plus?
I had a brief subscription for the Mandalorian. I'll probably kick it back up once season 2 starts up. But you know,
And you're more into the Star Wars stuff than the comic stuff, correct?
I am, yeah.
so you're as someone that is more into the comics, or I'm sorry, the Star Wars stuff than the comic stuff. Does this move the needle for you at all? Do you have are these shows incentive enough for you to either keep or sign back up for a Disney Plus? Because I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Once they do start coming out, if they're going to move the needle for people that are like you, that maybe.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely more interesting content that you can watch, and it's been a little dry on there, obviously. But to me, the more the better, and especially if they kind of dive into like the whole story of like, the Winter Soldier, Falcon, and all that. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Okay.
I mean, Winter Soldier, we got these pics of him with his new vibranium arm here from the set. So.
Oh, look at him. He's just cheesing. The guy in the background's like, why are you taking a picture of me?
Yeah. Well, this is just good news, though, because, like, they're at least getting this damn thing wrapped up.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, this, like I said, Winter Soldier, like, dude, I love, too, that this is, like,
that
practical.
Arm looks crazy.
I know. I love that it's practical. And, like, actually looks good. Like, it looks pretty damn good, like, as a practical.
I wonder what they, like, made it out of, because it looks like there's no, like, joint to it or anything. It's just, like, solid.
Maybe I'm curious what it's made out of, too. It's probably just, like, latex rubber.
Yeah.
Some form of it. Who knows? It looks great, though, honestly. Because, I mean, it's cool that they were actually able to do something practical, so they didn't have to worry too much about CGI stuff. It's always good. I don't know. So there's that. But yeah, I'm just, in the end, I just want to see this damn show. So, and now we have to wait till 2021. So,
yeah.
But that being said, what do you guys think? Are you guys disappointed that, Falcon and Winter Soldier is getting pushed back? Because I am. Like I said, Winter Soldier is probably, at this point, probably one of my favorite characters actually in the MCU. I think he actually has a lot of potential to actually be. He's had unlike a lot of other MCU characters, surprisingly, even with him being a side character, I feel like he's actually had far more character growth than a lot of these people who have had their own standalone movie. So that's one of the things that I don't know. I find them compelling in that way. So I don't know. It's the anti-heroes are always, I don't know, they're always far more interesting in a lot of ways. So whatever you guys think, just let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our final MCU topic. I told you, MCU is popping off this week. They have a ton of news stories coming out. Not a lot of content coming out yet because it's all been pushed back, but a lot of news stories coming out. That being said, this is a story about more stuff getting pushed back from Marvel. So we got Black Widow, Eternals, and Shang-Chi all getting delayed. So we got Black Widow that was supposed to come out in July. That's going to 2021 now. May 7th, 2021 is when they're saying that's going to come out. So then Eternals, which, come on, then Johnny's been coming out saying that he's been praising the movie a lot. Which, I mean,
why wouldn't he?
Big news, yeah. Actor in movie is saying movie is good.
Yeah,
Ooh.
right.
Like, what else is he gonna say? Like, kind of sucks, but I got paid, like whatever. So, not really too big of news there. But Eternals is now being delayed till November 5th, 2021. And then Shang-Chi coming out July 9th. I don't know why they had this out of order. Doesn't make any sense. Should have been Black Widow and then the Shang-Chi. I didn't write the article, but whatever. So we got Black Widow, then Shang-Chi, then Eternals now, which is kind of a bummer because Eternals, no offense to like Shang-Chi or Black Widow or anything, but I'm probably more, even though I haven't seen anything from it, I'm more looking forward to Eternals, I think, because it's a new IP from the Marvel. Whereas, like we said, Black Widow should have came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and then with Eternals, I don't know if you guys saw this too, but like apparently the director wants literally the movie to be bigger than Endgame, which is like, it's your first movie, man. Calm down. All right, like, it's the first Eternals movie. It don't need to be bigger than Endgame. Calm down.
Bigger how?
Like, I don't know. Right.
Okay. Like I hope he doesn't think that it's gonna break box off.
It is a woman. I forget her name.
Oh shit! I hope she isn't thinking it's gonna break like I don't know, concept wise. I don't know. Just real quick, I don't know if you'll know this, but are all those dates just basically 1 year removed from what they were supposed to be this year? Because I thought Eternals was supposed to hit in November of this year. Yeah, I don't know about Shang-Chi if that was supposed to be this year or not, but I feel like those dates are just pushed back 1 year completely.
I think Shang-Chi was going to be in 2021 anyway, but I think they now moved it.
Okay.
So my guess is that Black Widow was supposed to initially come out in either May or July, and then it got pushed back, and then obviously it can't come out. Eternals was going to come out in November, but I don't know why it still couldn't, unless I guess they had to stop filming on that too. I don't really know.
Well, I'm guessing that Disney has looked at the returns for the movies that have come out, like Tenet and some of the other stuff, and just decided that we're going to give it more time. We're going to give it more time for people to get used to going back to the theaters to see if the theaters can remain open, and then, or to see if a vaccine gets put in place and people, this whole issue passes.
Right. I know. Well, vaccine-wise, quote unquote, leading theory. I know this is like a little bit off topic. They said that wouldn't even be ready to distribute the one they have, assuming it works until I think next November or December anyway, to like the masses. So we'll still be dealing with I don't know, potentially less returns at the box office, even beyond these dates. Who knows? But speaking of which, I actually looked up today because the AMC around here is open. Did you go and see Tenet? I think you said
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
I looked to see if the one that was here was open and everything, and they were, and they had 2 showings for Tenet, and then 1 showing for The Empire Strikes Back, and the 2 showings for Tenet only had 2 people in them. But then, so I was like, "Oh, cool, man!" And then I told my wife, like, maybe we should go and see it, because if we're gonna be like the only people in the theater, like, I'm a lot more comfortable doing that, you know.
Yeah.
But then but I'm thinking, well, since that's a new release, I'm wondering how many people are in The Empire Strikes Back, and then I click on it, theater's full. Like there was like barely any empty seats. Like I was like, awesome. Oh, okay, maybe. But I don't know if maybe that's why no one was seeing Tenet, just because they're all seeing Empire Strikes Back. But I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like a 30-year-old movie is selling out, but then
why not though? It's a great movie.
True, but I've seen that movie literally 100 times.
Yes.
Is it also one of their $5 movies? I know a lot of studios were bringing, or a lot of theaters were bringing back older movies, but only charging like a nominal fee for it, just to get people back in the building.
True, I know AMC was doing that.
Not that I think that $5 is going to stop, saving $8 on a ticket is going to move people to go see an older movie versus a newer one. It's probably more the movie itself, but still,
yeah, it's because it's Empire. I mean, it's there's a lot of people too, and I actually commend them. Anyone who wants to go out and see it, and only downside is once I saw how full that was, I immediately didn't want to go to that.
No,
like just given the situation right now, unfortunately, but that's a movie that the majority of people right now probably haven't seen in theaters. Maybe they're not the majority, but a lot of people out there were not able to see Empire in theaters. Like I wasn't in theaters.
What were the special editions? Were what, 98, 96,
97? I think.
Yeah, I think it was like 97 or something. Did they put those in theaters? I don't even remember.
They did.
Yeah, that was the big thing in the mid 90s before the prequels came out, was Lucas re-releasing those. It's also when we got the special editions with the adjustments to
Yeah.
them. So I'm curious if the Empire that's playing right now is the special edition.
OG.
From what I understand, they have to be the special editions. It was literally in the contract when he sold Lucasfilm that that you're not allowed to distribute
Yeah, I don't think the
the
original
original
ones
trilogy as it was
Yeah.
anymore. So the only way those movies in the original form could ever be re-released, and because that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants because they went in and did the 4K fix on the special editions and everything, so release those in like Blu-ray and 4K. But nobody wants them. They want the original, like the original theatrical versions. And yeah, the only way you're going to be able to do that is after, like, if not that anyone's clamoring for this, but George has to pass away, and then someone from his estate would need to okay it. Because as far as George is concerned, it's not happening, and it's in the contract. They have to abide by that contract since they bought it and they signed it. So Disney's like can't do anything with it. But that being said, it would be really cool to see that movie in theaters.
Definitely.
And I don't know what she means by like wanting to go bigger. She mentions the director's Chloe Zhao, but she says that she has like deep, strong manga roots. And she brought some of that into Eternal. So I don't really see where she's saying like anything about it, like wanting to be bigger than Endgame. So I don't really know where they're getting that quote from.
From a cosmic scale, it's hard. It's both easier and harder, I guess, to go bigger. If that's not going to make any sense, but it was so Thanos and the Infinity Stones were so, and that battle was so focused on the Earth heroes and basically Earth fighting him to correct reality. I could see it being a bigger scale in so much as Eternals is more galaxy wide, or bringing in different races, different alien races and stuff, and having it be a more cosmic scale film. If she means bigger that way, that I could see happening.
I'm thinking this quote is actually more of clickbait, in all honesty. It's like it's an out of context quote, because when you read the quote, and I'm not even reading, this isn't the full interview, so I don't even know the context in which she was actually saying this. But she says, "How much further and bigger can we go after Endgame? Because I'm not just making the film as a director; I'm making the film as a fan."
So it's not like they're trying to like outdo.
Yeah, it seems more speculatory to where she was like, "How much further and bigger can we?" Because when in my mind, that's how I read that, is like, how much further and bigger can you even go? Like, not, I'm gonna make a bigger. Like, it doesn't seem to be that way at all. Like, so I don't know. I don't get that she wants to go bigger than Endgame. Whoa.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And like I said, how could you when it's just your first movie? Like, don't do Amazing Spider-Man 2, okay? Don't try to go too big when you're first, like, it's your second movie and you're throwing in the Sinister Six in a very poor way. Like, you don't need to do all that. Like, tell a good story. Because I'm excited for Eternals for, what's his name? Rob Stark. Can't remember his name right now. But Rob Stark's
Nope, I don't have it either.
Rob Stark.
Yeah, Rob Stark's in the main one of the main guy. So I'm excited for that. And then we got Kumail and Johnny, and I love Kumail and Johnny.
Yeah.
I just watched a movie with the guy who plays Rob Stark. But I really like him as an actor, so like I'm excited to see that. And I mean, unfortunately, with all of this, everything's just getting pushed back. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I'm excited to see Black Widow. I'm excited to see Shang-Chi. But I don't know. Kind of just want to, like Kumail and Johnny says in this quote here where he was talking about it. He says like they delayed it. Marvel made the right and responsible decision. There's a pandemic, and nothing more important than health and lives. And it's true. Like just speaking as a person who doesn't want to die, for the most part, when I get sick, like I want to see these movies very badly, because like you were saying, John, we're in an MCU content drought for one, but funnily enough, I remember reading an article, something else where someone was talking about all the production for like network television, everything had to get shut down because of this stuff. And even like those sources have pretty much nearly run out of all the content that they had, like, and ready to go. Like, so now, like, this far into everything being shut down and not being able to produce anything more. So even like everyone's hurting to put out new content right now, especially these like big studios who like their livelihood depends on it and everything. So I don't know. I don't want to get sick though, so I'm fine with I'm fine with waiting till 2021. I just wish like Disney Plus would have had some stuff ready for us and we could have been watching that. But alas, Either way. I guess the question is, guys, what do you think about all this stuff getting pushed back? Do you agree that they made the right decision? And like we were kind of saying, they're probably, it probably was not only the right decision as far as health concerns go, but I mean, given the fact that they've seen the numbers on like even Mulan doing the at home release, and then Tenet's box office right now is like not super great, and then even Mulan's overseas numbers weren't very great at all. So you think like Marvel made the right decision pushing these back so they can get a much more substantial return on the because I mean I think these even it's not just about greed and everything. It's not just about corporate greed because given the circumstances, they did spend probably $200 million a piece making these movies. So like they need to get some money back. So whatever you guys think, you let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So we're gonna get into our final topics here today, and we're gonna rapid fire through some of these because we still have like I don't know, like 4 or 5 kind of stories that we want to cover. Some we have more insight on than others, but we want to make sure you guys know about them. So the first thing that we're going to get into here is Max Landis. He recently put out a video on YouTube here. Pretty much was his pitch for a Superman movie that I guess could have been that he had pitched to Warner Brothers at one point or was going to do something with them about it. He was writing the what's it called American Alien. Is that what it's called? The comic line.
Yeah.
Which John, you said you read and you really liked that. So
it was great. It was
I
a
mean,
great series.
From what I understand, watching this, and I don't know, you said you haven't made it totally through this video, right?
Halfway, yeah.
So from what I got from it, was it a continuation of American Alien, like that Superman character?
It was supposed to be a direct sequel to. He's got some setup cards that run over the very beginning of this video, and it's supposed to be a direct sequel to his American Alien storyline that he wrote. I don't know. God, that's been maybe 5-6 years ago now that those issues were released.
Right. Because like there was a lot of stuff in here. Like I randomly came across this. It was like I was about to go to bed. It was like midnight or something, and I was just sitting on YouTube, just looking at random videos, and all of a sudden I see this, and I was like, I had seen it a little bit earlier, and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this right now. Like it's already past midnight, and it's like 54 minutes long. And I was just sitting there, and I was like, it popped up again, and I was like, damn it, I guess I'll see what it's like. I just turn it off, and I ended up watching the whole thing. So like him telling it compelled me enough to keep going through. So if you guys haven't watched this, and if especially if you are familiar with American Alien and enjoyed it, this is actually too what this dude says here, and this Jack's Blade guy comment here says that he'd watch a whole animated movie on this. I actually think after listening to the whole thing, it would actually work extremely well as one of DC's animated films, like to some degree.
I would love to see this get made as the comic or graphic novel that it was intended to be, and then maybe made into one of the animated movies. It's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for that to happen because Max Landis got wrapped up in the whole Me Too issue, and there's a lot of people that have made some pretty serious allegations against him, and he's been off of the table. He's been kind of out of the public spotlight since all those allegations came about, and I think it's been going back to 2017, maybe early 2018, that the allegations were made. And I haven't as somebody that kind of followed his stuff, I liked Chronicle, I liked American Alien, like I said. I mean, that's you never know what your creators are into in their personal lives, and it came out with some stuff that wasn't very nice about him, and he's so maybe rightly so, he was removed from the public spotlight, and he hasn't done much. I'm curious if this is his attempt to kind of put himself back in the public eye. If he's made adjustments to his life, or if he's made amends to the people that he hurt, and this is him trying to make his way back in. But regardless, the story concepts are very interesting, and I thought quite good.
No, I totally agree. Like, obviously go watch the video, everybody, of him telling the story, because I'm not going to do it any real justice, but it was like the main, juxtaposition of it all was that, like, Superman was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I might be forgetting, this was like late when I was watching it, but he was like newly Superman and being trained by Batman, as opposed to like the BVS story where Batman sees him and thinks of him as a threat. Instead of doing that, he like approaches Superman and wants to train him to, in some ways, be another Batman. Like not like directly put on like the cowl and like go beat people up at night, but just train him. Just like be way better, because this was kind of the main gripe I had with his whole pitch for it and everything, was the fact that Superman kind of seemed like an idiot. Like, you made him like a little bit too straight up dumb and too naive, I think is what you would describe. I didn't really care for that too much, because like my main argument with how like I don't really see how he would be that naive is the fact that, because they made him like being very naive to just like, I don't know, basic human things. Like, it made him very like childlike sounding, the way like Max would portray like some of the dialogue Superman would have between like him and Bruce, or him and Robin, or whoever. And it just wouldn't make any real sense to me, kind of like I was complaining about musicals just randomly happening. Like, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you're looking at Superman, who's like a 30-year-old dude who grew up with humans, raised by humans in the human world. So he wouldn't be naive to just basic human culture, and he wouldn't act like a teenager when he's like a 30-year-old dude, which was kind of how Max was portraying him. If they were going to do like a Superboy thing, maybe it would make more sense for him to be acting that way. But like, they literally had it to where he even says like Robin's like 18 years old at this point, and Robin was more mature than Superman. Like, just through all the dialogue he was saying that they were going to have, and the interplay that they had. Like, there was some funny stuff. Like, you haven't got to it to like the end, but like the way the movie or show or comic series or whatever would have ended, was actually, there's one good line at the very end of it that Superman has that was like, it was actually good, because like I was very up and down.
Spoilers for those that haven't seen it, but you can go ahead and tell me. I'm not.
Okay, well, spoilers if you're worried about getting spoiled on a 54-minute pitch from a writer who this thing's probably never going to get made anyway. So you can go watch the video. But so I don't know how far you got into his little pitch thing, but eventually his story here is essentially ties into the Killing Joke, but from Superman's perspective. So he goes like, I don't know how far you got, so it's kind of hard for me just to pick up. But the Killing Joke stuff happens. Barbara Gordon gets shot. Okay. Like, so all that happens. And then like during this time, it's not only just like the Killing Joke stuff's happening, but like all of the, like, it's pretty much mayhem in Gotham. Batman's missing. No one can get a hold of him. And that's when they find out that Barbara Gordon had been shot. And like Superman and Dick were out dealing with Aquaman and didn't know any of this stuff was going on. And they return, and like chaos is happening in Gotham. No one can get a hold of them. So at the very end, once they deal with all that stuff, Batman essentially calls out Superman and says like, "You're not ready to do this. Like, you're not ready for this. You're too naive. You're pretty much a terrible person. Like, you're stupid." And he is stupid, because that's how he's been portrayed the entire time, right? But then so Batman like whips out some kryptonite suit or something. He's affected by the kryptonite. Then him and Robin have what John Landis or Max Landis, John Landis' dad, what Max Landis was describing as a John Wick-esque fight between Batman and Robin, and like just the craziest thing you've ever seen kind of thing. And it's
Yeah.
cool because it's Batman versus Robin and blah blah. And then at the end of it, like Superman like gets up and like pins him to the wall with one finger because like the kryptonite wore off enough. And like he's like, Bruce like just yelling at him, like, you're just like mean and blah 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 whatever. And then he says, like, and if you do anything out of hand, like blah blah, like I'm gonna kill you. Like just like gets all like really like shitty with him, like putting him in his place. And I'm not giving this any justice at all because I don't remember what he was actually saying. Max Landis made this sound a lot cooler. But he's sitting there just pinning him up to the wall with one finger, saying like all this stuff. And then Robin goes and helps Superman, and just like they go to leave the Batcave, and then Dick's like, oh, you're like, what? I forget what he said. But he's just like, oh, so you're gonna like kill him all? You're gonna bring down the wrath of God on him, huh? Like, huh? And he's just like, yeah, yeah. Do you think he bought it? And he's just like, well, he's letting us leave, so yeah, I think he bought it. And like they're just like walking away, like it was much funnier when he says it, but it was like a good little like. Go watch the last 10 minutes of it, if anything, because it actually was
Yeah.
like it wrapped up very nicely, and yeah, it was pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, the interplay between the characters, he has Max Landis seems to have a good knack for how they play off each other.
That was one thing I actually thought was like probably the best part about it. I know you, Rick, you're sitting here in La La Land because you have no idea. It's a 54-minute thing that you didn't watch any of. So just picture, I don't know everything I just said, but extend it out with a bunch of canon and lore that you don't know anything about.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds real good, right? But yeah, if anything, you Rick, go check it out.
I'll check it out.
It's actually like if you got an hour to kill for everybody and you like Batman and Superman and you're interested in like a new and interesting take. Because I will say one of the other cool things is just like how many characters, like, because I pictured this pitch as a movie, like as he was like explaining it all.
Yeah.
And it would have absolutely no place in the current continuity of like DC's movies. Because Robin's there at 18. He did write Lois as being like a badass though, and he really emphasized that. So like that was actually kind of cool. Which, speaking of the Me Too stuff, it's no surprise that if any of that allegation is true, it's definitely better for him to write a very powerful woman. And you know what I mean? So that kind of makes sense that he would really be emphasizing that. And but I don't know anything about that. Whatever the fuck. But all that was cool. There was honestly, dude, you should just definitely, everybody, please go watch it because there was actually some, despite how I didn't like the Superman stuff totally, just because I thought it made him a little bit too stupid. There was a lot of really good stuff that I'd like to see in there. Like,
well, it's done interestingly too. It's not just him sitting there reading the script. I mean, he kind of acts out the parts a little bit here and there.
He makes it
Plus,
entertaining.
they cut in different graphics and scenes from around the world. Like when at one point they visit Qatar and they cut in a shot of the city of Qatar. And so it's not just simply somebody sitting there reading you a script kind of bland and dull. It's more entertaining.
It's entertaining,
yeah. I mean, he like acts it out and emphasizes stuff too. Like he'll use voices. He's a writer, so he's very, it's not like incompetent. It's much better than what I was trying to do. God forbid. I was trying to remember this off the top of my head for something I watched around like I said, like 1 o'clock in the morning by the time I seen the scene that I actually liked. So I liked a lot of it. You should go check it out. It's definitely worth checking out. It's something I could see becoming a movie, like an animated movie, far before I could see it being a live action movie. Yeah. And I think just based on the way he characterized a lot of the characters in general and their characterizations, I think that really lends itself well to being an animated thing. So go check it out.
Well,
yeah, let us know, and everybody check it out. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, so our next topic, and we're rapid firing through the rest of these. I promise, guys, that this is what we're going to do. We have our first look at Monster Hunter, the property based on the Capcom game. So we got a good look at that coming out. Sony is producing the film. I'm guilty of the fact that I have not played any of the Monster Hunter games, but a lot of my friends have, and they love it. So I can't really speak too much of the
My
gameplay. The
brother
only thing,
loves it.
huh?
My brother loves it.
Yeah, it's definitely a game that he would like for sure. Totally. And like I said, a bunch of my friends play it. I just never something I never got around to doing. Have you played it, John?
I actually did. I started the first one that came out 2 years ago or something. I didn't get deep into it. I rented it from the library and I played like the first couple hours. It was a fun game. It was just it looked like it could be kind of a grind, and
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, it's a
I
constant
was
grind.
playing other stuff too, so it kind of fell by the wayside. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's definitely a very it's like it's definitely like an RPG grinding game. It's just all about getting gear from monsters and crafting gear, and it's just kind of rinse repeat. Like for the most part, from what I understand. So if you're into that kind of thing, then you probably like it, and you probably know a lot about it anyway. The main thing that I like from this picture, one, is the sword, dude. Because the sword I recognized immediately was like actually the sword. I mean, it's like an in-game piece of armor to some capacity, or at least what was in like promotional pieces in some way. I don't know if it's the same characters that would be using it, or if it's just like, oh, we just threw the sword in for fun. So I mean, that's kind of cool. The only thing that has me worried about this though is that Paul W.S. Anderson is directing it, which was no surprise. Like I didn't even know he was directing it, but then I saw Mila Jovovich was in it, and I was like, oh man, I hope her husband Paul W.S. Anderson isn't directing it, because that's the team that was behind all those Resident Evil movies that had nothing to do with Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So it'd be really unfortunate for the Monster Hunter franchise to fall victim to the same minds behind it. And sure enough, womp, 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 it is. So I don't know. That kind of ruined my any sort of hopes I had for the movie being good. Unfortunately, I mean, as sad as it sounds, it's because like those movies, not only did they have nothing to do with Resident Evil, they just weren't good movies.
I will say the game is maybe more lighthearted or more fun. It doesn't have obviously it doesn't have the horror tone that Resident Evil does. So I don't know. Maybe given a different genre, a different style of movie, maybe they can turn it into something better.
I don't know. We'll have to see, man. I just have little to no faith in, like, just based on those movies, man. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what to do. But the other part of this main story, I guess, too, is the fact that this stuff is going to be appearing at New York Comic Con, and New York Comic Con, to jump into our next topic, is doing a virtual thing, just like Comic Con in San Diego and like DC Fandom. So they have their full like panel list online, so you can go check that out. We're not going to go through it all here, but like I just wanted to let everybody know that they're doing a virtual event from October 8th to October 11th. So if you want to check out everything they have going on there so far as it stands, Monster Hunter, Freaky, and then the Russo brothers being there have been like the biggest name draws, or stories or anything that's actually going to be part of the event there. Granted, there might be something that you prefer, like actually on here if you go and check it all out. So there's some stuff there, a lot of it. None of it seems to be any big name stuff, but at the same time, there's been like zero things in production, so I can't really. They're kind of falling victim to the same thing that San Diego's virtual Comic Con did. I think just they just don't have anything to really show. So I give them props for trying to do something for the fans. Like it's kind of like the other Comic Con did.
I tell you what, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I have a whole lot to say because I wasn't that impressed with San Diego Comic Con online. I have a feeling this is going to be much in the similar vein as that. Maybe not. Maybe they learned some stuff from DC Fandom and will be able to kind of make it a little more entertaining. But there is a panel that's going to have Joe and Anthony Russo, and it says they will take a look at the storied relationship between comic book powerhouses Marvel and DC with filmmaker Kevin Smith. I'm really excited for that panel. I think the two guys, they're responsible for guiding a lot of the MCU along with Kevin Feige over these past, this past 5 to 10 years. And then Kevin Smith, who's he's a comic book guy. He's been involved with comics for both DC and Marvel. I think that could be pretty entertaining.
I feel like, though, you think the Russo brothers are a little bit biased? You think they would be a little bit biased?
Hey, they're a little biased, maybe the MCU, but they're also Cleveland guys, and Superman came from Cleveland. Joe and Jerry created Superman in Cleveland, so their hometown has some pretty strong ties to
Is
DC.
Joe and Jerry writing their paychecks? I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige is writing their paycheck. Right. That's all I'm saying.
Pretty sure he'll still write their paychecks for them if they say something good about DC.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see for sure. Because I've always too, like with the Russo brothers, if you look at their filmography outside of the MCU, it hasn't actually been that good. They did You, Me, and Dupree. They did Community, which was a TV show, and they didn't do all of it, but they did a lot of directing on that. Then they did Arrested Development, which good, but also a TV show and a comedy show. But then their most recent outing with their own film production company was the 21 Bridges with the late Chadwick Boseman, and then the Chris Hemsworth movie on Netflix called Extraction, which both of those movies weren't on the level of Captain America: Winter Soldier or Infinity War or Endgame. Let's put it at that. So I'm more curious to see, like, well, at least with them just kind of being biased and everything. I'm curious to see what they're gonna do like outside of the MCU, because their first two outings I don't really think have gone very well, and it's always made me wonder if like how much involvement they had. I mean, I know they did their thing and those movies came out great, right? But how much of that was really like Kevin Feige and then the two writers that they had on all three films? You know what I mean? Because like they did a great job directing and making those movies and everything, but the two movies since then, they were no Winter Soldier, they were no Infinity War, they were no Endgame. You know what I mean? Like, no offense to people, like the fight scenes in Extraction were really great. Like they were really like some John Wick stuff, but like the movie itself was just kind of like okay. But I don't know. That's just food for thought. That's just food for thought. So guys, go check out the if you're interested and you enjoyed the movie. I was reading it or whatever. If you enjoyed the virtual Comic-Con stuff, Movie Trivia Schmodown is great though. I watch it all the time on YouTube, so that's pretty cool that they're there. I don't know if you guys like movie trivia. Go check that out. Check them out on YouTube. Anyway, let's move on to our next quick topic here. Is Giancarlo Esposito, Gus Fring himself. He mentioned that offhand in an interview that they potentially have plans already. Season 2's not even out yet, but they have plans of Mandalorian going up to season 4. So he just kind of said it offhand, and so we don't really have any sort of like actual confirmation of it. But I mean,
planning ahead.
They're planning ahead, which is something they didn't do for the sequel trilogy. So the fact that they have, I don't know, the fact that they're mapping this out a lot better and actually planning, they're telling a story and they actually know where it's going, lends me hope.
Yeah.
Because like Mandalorian season 1 was great. It had a couple bumps in the road, like that Tatooine episode in particular wasn't good. Like you could, what's the worst thing about that episode is too is you could just delete it. You don't miss anything.
Yeah,
you miss nothing from like the actual overarching story. You don't get any character development out of any. It's just such a useless episode. Not to mention how poorly it was done.
Yeah.
No offense to everybody involved because everything else was great, but like that episode, that's so bad. Like it was just
Didn't
so
care
bad.
for it.
Like I don't know. Moving on, but I'm excited for them. Like I said, just to them, it seems like they have a plan. So I'm excited for that, and it's obviously he's gonna say he's excited for it too because he's an actor in the movie, and like they're not gonna like trash talk the show. But I don't know. What do you guys got? Anything?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to wait that much longer anymore just to get season 2. So, yeah. I mean, that's soon.
The only thing I'll say is like, I don't know who's running things over. I don't know who's running things at these companies, but my God, why have they not just given like, okay, it's been renewed for another 4 or 5 seasons. Why? I mean, why are they dragging us along and like slowly like giving us these one season rules at a time? Same with The Boys. I know The Boys got picked up for season 3 right ahead of its season 2 release, but my God, you're doing a spinoff show. You're telling me you're not going to renew that show for another 2 to 3 years at least, at minimum. Why do they? I'm curious why they do these. Maybe it's to keep the creative fire lit under the guys' butts or whatever. I don't know, but
I don't know, because you would think the people involved, like with actually making the show, they know before anybody, because they have to know they have to get these people's time scheduled, like especially the actors, like 100% the actors.
Narrative wise, wouldn't it be easier to know, okay, I've got at least 3 more seasons, this is how I want these things to break, this is where we want to build towards, and this is the roadmap to get us there.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why hopefully that seems like what they're doing. Like if they're already, if Giancarlo here, him like just being not even one of the main characters really, like, because he was only in the last episode of season 1, and then he was barely shown in the trailer for season 2. So I'm sure he's just gonna kind of be a looming threat, not have a ton to do, which is probably how it should be utilized, because I mean that is how like Vader was utilized, just very sparingly, and then like look how great that turned out, minus the prequel. And so yeah, I don't know if he knows about it. If he knows that they're already coming, like have that planned out, then I don't know. That's just reassuring that they're actually planning it out. Like they're not just throwing it along and just doing the thing, not like doing the sequel trilogy thing. Is I just want them to have a coherent story to tell. Like, because that's going to be the downfall, and pretty much the downfall of anything is just having a bad story, obviously. But like we've seen it firsthand in Star Wars. Like you got to know where it's going. Like when you just have random, not that they're not talented people and everything, but like when you don't have a creative vision for where a beginning, middle, and end of your story, you get incoherent stories like we got in the sequel trilogy, like where things just kind of happen. So I don't want that to happen with Mandalorian, because overall the show's great. So anyways, you let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below about the Mandalorian stuff. We got our final quick topic here is the CW Supergirl is going to be ending after season 6 here. John, have you been keeping up with the show?
I have. I'm disappointed in the sense that it's a DC show. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when getting any comic book content on TV was a super rare thing and something to be really cherished. So knowing that one of them is ending is a little disappointing. But I also will say that the show is not as good, in my opinion, as it was at the beginning. And so maybe creatively they've run their course, and this is time for them to hang up the cape for now. So it was a great show, especially the first few seasons. They were firing on all cylinders and just had a really great show going. And the last few have been fine, but there was a little dip I felt in the storytelling.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I felt with all the CW shows at some point. I feel like they all like start really strong, and then I feel like they all kind of get stale. Like the same thing happened with Arrow. Same thing happened, like in my opinion, with like I stopped watching them all. So if that just goes to show you, like I watched the first 1 or 2 seasons of Supergirl, then it just fell off, and then same with Flash. I got up to like maybe season 4 or whatever, and fell off. Same with Arrow. Like I didn't even watch how that's like Arrow ended or anything. Like that's how like. Well, plus they killed him off in like the multiverse thing too, so that was kind of like. I was just disappointed from a whole other standpoint, like because I watched like a clip that came out of like the last episode of Arrow, because like there was a whole story about like how he wasn't even there for it. So I was like, well, what did they do then? So I look at it and I'm like, dude's not even there for the final episode of the show, which is just kind of like, well, how do you do that? Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of. I mean, that being said, I think the more interesting part, not really the more interesting part, but a interesting part is that they're still doing the Superman and Lois show despite them canceling Supergirl. So I'm wondering if maybe like Supergirl is going to pop up in there or what. Like,
Well, it's interesting because when this news broke the other day, it's not a cancellation in the sense that the axe came down, that the show wasn't performing. I have a feeling that this has more to do with the actress Melissa Benoit being done playing the character. It's funny because this news came out 2 or 3 days ago, and then like just yesterday, she posted something on one of the social media platforms. It might have been Instagram, I think, of her brand new baby that was just born. And so the timing is very interesting. I'm wondering if because she has it's her first child, if she told them, look, I need to pull back and not be doing a weekly television show right now. And they decided, well, let's just end the series. And then maybe she's agreed to come back and do some cameos on Superman. I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting.
That would make sense. And I know too, though, I don't know what they're really planning. I guess no one really knows, but didn't they say that the Superman and Lois show was going to be taking place off world a lot?
Well, that's definitely what they did with the character. They moved the character off world. So maybe it'll start there, and then maybe when Supergirl, however they, finish her series out, maybe that will create the room to bring Superman back to Earth. Maybe Supergirl goes off into space and Superman's needed. That super presence is needed back on Earth. When you have them both occurring on Earth, you run that kind of OP. Why aren't they always with each other? Rationale. It's kind of hard to understand why Supergirl isn't always showing up in Superman's show and vice versa. So maybe that's how they bring him back to Earth. I don't know.
I just never cared for how they made Superman just job for Supergirl. Like at any time, they made Superman lose every fight just so Supergirl could win it. It's like they even literally had they had Superman tell Lois, or not tell Lois, but tell Kara that like the world doesn't need me because they have you.
Yeah.
He's fucking Superman. Like, no, like Superman is not weaker in any aspect than Supergirl. And it's not like a man versus woman thing. It's Superman's the original one. Supergirl's a derivative character.
Yeah.
She's not stronger than Superman. It doesn't matter if it's Supergirl's show. Superman can still be stronger because he is stronger. That's how it works. Like, and it's not a man versus woman genetic battle because he'd still be stronger at that point. Sorry for you to hear that too, but like it's Superman, okay? It's Superman. They don't have him lose fights. Just Supergirl can win to make Supergirl look relevant. That's stupid and it's bad for your character. It's not bad for the Superman character. It's bad for the Supergirl character because the only way you can make her look good is if she's stronger than Superman. No, you just write a good character. Make her good.
Yeah, I don't know why TV shows fall into that trap, but they've done comics for decades and decades and decades, and Superman doesn't show up, and that's fine. He doesn't show up. Supergirl fights her own battles, and it's fine. You don't need to bring Superman in to elevate her character. Her character can stand on her own just fine.
Yeah, exactly. The only people that can beat Superman is a guy named Batman. That's it. Like there's no one else. Like Wonder Woman, maybe. Black Adam, maybe. That's it. No one else. Like you just can't do it. That's the only thing that's ever pissed me off about that show. Otherwise, though, I thought it was okay. And if you're right, that kind of makes sense about like the baby thing. I could see that. I mean, they're still doing the full season run too. They didn't cut it or anything, so it's still going to be like 20 episodes or whatever. So at least give some time to wrap everything up. And that's the thing too. The only thing I really want to say, just like I don't know, kind of has to do with that, is if with what you were saying, like with like the network television shows and them doing the whole like 20 episodes and like they do them like literally weekly, like they don't film those, like they don't put them all in the can and then release them. Like they're literally filming those week to week. Which I think is a detriment to like the way that network television kind of is. It's like I know they have to do it like financially for whatever reason, but like Netflix will record the whole thing, they'll get it all filmed, whatever, and then they just drop it all. Like same with like the Mandalorian, they get it all filmed and they drop it week to week, whatever, right? Like it would free up your actors more if you just did it that way for everything. And I know it's like I guess it's more expensive for them to do that, and maybe it's somehow it sounds convoluted, but somehow it's harder for that to happen for like a TV show, even though like for scheduling purposes and financial purposes, even though like I don't really understand how that would work because you go and film a movie or like something it's like depending on how much you're in it, it's like 3 months you could get done with the production of the entire thing. Like you're done. And then like the editors do their thing and then it's out whenever. Post production's done, whatever. But when you're doing a show that runs for like 6, 7, 8 months, filming it week to week to week, I feel like everyone's time is being used up so much more than if they were to just get everyone together for 3 months, get the whole damn thing done, and then ship it out. Not do 20 episodes too. Like do 10, 13 episodes. Like I don't like the 20 episode thing. Like I just feel like there's too much filler stuff, and like I don't know, they change things too much because that's the thing they go off of is the ratings, and like just make a good story and put it out there. You don't gotta do the week to week thing. It's cumbersome. But anyways, that was our last topic. You guys, anything else you want to add to that? No? Everybody good? Okay, well then that'll do it for us today then, guys. Don't forget, you can email us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Submit topics, submit questions, submit whatever you want. We'll look at it. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. If have to email us and find out. Maybe I'll reply to it. Never know. Shoot it that way. Rick, where can everybody find you online?
Sir Rick Metz. Follow me. Instagram.
All right, there we go. John, where can everybody find you online?
Or at Twitter at Nightwing_J.
All right. Well, it's good to have you guys here. Obviously, always a pleasure. You guys can follow me at Sir Rob Bifo, simply right there. That'll do it. I think we're all good. You guys, final chances. Anything you want to add?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we're out, guys. Take care.